Look what he made me do. I met somebody new. Ooh, baby, baby, I'm dating with another stranger. Hey strangers, so in this setting again, and again wearing a tube top dress, that can only mean one thing from the intro, another dating story segment. I'm just literally killing off time while sitting here, waiting to go to work, so I thought, why not do a little story time? And I was actually writing this in my journal for a little bit. So I used to write in my journal a lot, but then I noticed that it has to do with age for sure. The more like I'm prone to like texting and typing, the more I write, it hurts way more than before. I'm saying way more a lot. So I thought, why not do a video while I still remember it? It's gonna be hilarious, and it's not in like any chronological order. I'm just telling you guys these dates as they come in terms of like memory, but I do have a lot more stories to tell you. So this one is probably the most recent one in terms of like bad dates. So me and this guy, we were talking for like, I want to say, again, I usually wait for like a week or two for us to like talk and see if we vibe well. But the thing was, the reason, like, okay, this sounds horrible, but there are times, and if I'm being super real with it, if I'm on Tinder and I'm like bored swiping, there are some moments where there's a contestant on there and I'm just like, you know, you don't look like my type, but I'll swipe right anyways just to see if we'd match. Please tell me I'm not the only one that does that, but you know, there are times where I do that, and in this case, he was one of them. So I was like, eh. And then after a couple days, we matched, obviously. What I mean by obviously is that, you know, hence the date. This guy, he kept talking to me in a sense where he wanted to get to know me. And mind you, I had somebody else in mind that I liked, but at the moment he was like gone away to his home country. That I will talk about in another dating video. But yeah, so I was bored and I was like, you know what, I might as well keep my mind and my time occupied by meeting new people. I want to keep an open mind. So I thought, why not? So the way this guy was texting me, it was very much like, oh, so when are we gonna meet? Oh, are we gonna watch a movie together? Are we gonna do this? And for me, if you're really consistent on wanting to meet up, especially on the first chat up, I kind of don't want to meet you just because I'm very much so of wanting to get to know you a little bit more. And there's a thin line of how long you guys talk for before meeting up. And for me, if you're consistent for at least about a week, then yeah, I'd be interested in meeting up. So yeah, this guy was very persistent on wanting to hang out, and I'd always turn him down. So then come a week, me and my friend Nasa, we were gonna go to P Mall to get our nails done. So that day he was gonna hang out with me, but then I was like, oh, sorry, I'm busy. And then when I got my nails done, my friend was like, hey, actually I'm gonna go meet up with a couple different friends, like are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. In a way, I was like, man, I wish I knew earlier, because then I would have like made other plans, but I'm like, okay, that's fine, it's cool. So as I'm finishing up my nails, this guy messages me and goes, hey, like, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, I guess I should meet this guy, you know, just to kind of, I don't mean this in a rude way, but to get over it, just kind of meet him, see if we vibe well. If we don't, then, you know, you move on, sort of thing. So I was like, okay, why not? So I'm like, actually, I'm just about to get my nails done. If you'd like, do you have plans for later? And then he's like, oh no, I was actually gonna ask if like you want to go out for dinner. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, I am free right now, and why not? So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, like, let's do it. So then we planned to meet like around 6. I think it was like around 6 or 7. So then he agreed to come pick me up, which was really nice. So then later, after I got my nails done, I'm like, oh, super hot outside, so I kind of want something to drink. And then there's an offer where it's like you buy 2 for 1. So I was like, hey, I texted him like, hey, do you want like a mango smoothie? Because it's 2 for 1, and I thought, hey, why not buy you one, especially for driving me to dinner. And then he's like, yeah, of course. So then got him a drink. And then later he told me that he was going to get there at around 6-ish. So then come around 6 o'clock, I'm like kind of nervous because he did, like, I'm the type where I want to know if you're real or not, you know, just to be safe. So he did send me like a video picture of him, and he didn't really look like his photos. So, but whatever, you know, he seemed nice. So I was like, okay, like, why not? But yeah, I was just nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. So then he texted me saying, hey, I'm outside in a white car. So I look over and I see it. I'm like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. I'm texting him like, hey, I'm coming down. I come down and then I see, you know, like in my peripheral vision, he's like looking over. I'm like, oh God, this is really happening. Inside the car, and the first thought in my head was, he looks like motherfucking Snoop Dogg. I'm like, oh, like he legit looked like the style. I mean, like he looked like Snoop Dogg. He had long hair, tied up in a bun, facial hair. His car smelled like a hot box. He had knuckle rings on. To top it off, he rides a stick shift. That's one thing, but his stick shifter gear was a samurai sword handle. Yeah. Gave him his drink and he kept like looking over, smiling like that is, who laughs like that? It's Khalifa. So yeah, he kept laughing like that, and then he's like, so do you know where to go? I'm like, actually I think I have an idea of where I want to bring us, but I'm not too sure if you're okay with that because you're driving. So then later he drove to like the parking lot so we could sit down, chat a little bit, and then also finalize where we're gonna eat. So then as we're finalizing, you could tell like he keeps like drinking, looking at me and like laughing and putting a smirk on his face. It's like he can't, I don't mean this in a cocky way at all, but just saying what he said, like he couldn't believe that, you know, we're finally meeting sort of thing. So I kind of felt uneasy, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm like, you know what? The worst that could happen would be like, thank God, you know, nothing happened, but he would drive off, especially if you're about to put yourself in a car with a date. Do be careful. Luckily, it was daytime, public setting, so it was fine. So then when we finally finalized where to go, he was just like, oh, okay, like, I guess, yeah, we'll get going. And I chose that area because it was near my place. So then later when we were driving there, his freaking, okay, so he didn't want to put on his seatbelt. So throughout the whole ride, which is like a 25 minute ride, his freaking car kept going ding, ding, ding. And I'm just like, oh, what is that? And then he's like, oh, it's just me. It's my seatbelt. I'm like, don't you want to put on your seatbelt? He's like, nah, it's fine. Like, you know, my logic is if the driver is uncomfortable, then we're more prone to be in an accident. I was like, okay, very logic, but sure. It was kind of annoying talking to him while this dinging kept going. Like, well, you should, but whatever. Like, I'm just not gonna say anything else. So as we were driving, he's like, hey, do you want to like smoke up later? I'm like, I would rather not smoke up because I get anxious, and also I tend to be lost as well, and I don't know if I'm comfortable enough smoking up with technically a stranger, you know? And then he's like, oh, well, I bet, like, that's because you haven't been smoking up with people, with the right people. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not much of a smoker anyways, like, you know, where I'm gonna smoke weed and stuff, so I'm fine with that. Then he's like, oh, do you even know, like, people who smoke up? I'm like, yeah, my best friend does. And then it's like a ding, ding noise went off his head, like, oh, shit, your best friend? Who they? He was just like, oh, your best friend, eh? Like, what are they like? And mind you guys, my best friend's Alex. You guys, if you guys are a stranger of mine, you've seen Alex in my vlogs many a times, and Alex is quite the character. So I was like, oh, you know, they're really cool. They're just like me. They unfortunately don't live in the same city, but yeah, they smoke up literally almost every day. And in this guy's mind, he was thinking, oh, it's this rad ass chick who smokes up, and she's probably like those like very sexy looking girls and what you see as an Instagram baddie. So that was, I could tell just by his smirk of when I said my best friend smokes up. He's like, oh shit, like introduce, right? So then he was just like, oh, like, do you think one day like me and your best friend can smoke up one day? I'm like, I don't know, we'll see, I don't know. And then he was just like, oh, what do they like? Like, yeah, he loves dick. And then he's like, oh, what? And I'm like, yeah, he's gay. Which, no biggie. And then he's just like, "Oh no, no, man, no, no, I don't. Sorry, I don't do that." And I don't care if you have your own opinions about that. My opinion is love, whatever. But this guy, he was being so one sided about it to the point where he's like, "Oh no, no, I don't want to talk about that." Like for me, if I see that, like I would rather not. And if I don't even want to talk about it. Call it whatever you want, but I just don't like that shit. And that's when I was like, okay, this guy is stupid. First of all, for not wanting to put on his seatbelt. Two, he's very, very one sided and biased and not equal to society. So I was just like, oh, well, I think that's homophobic. And then he's like, no, it's not homophobic. Whatever you want to call it, but it's not homophobic. Like, what the fuck? Okay. So I didn't want to start an argument. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of, one sided and rude and whatever. So after that, I'm like, okay, it's not going to work out well with this person, even if I tried to be friends with him. So I'm like, okay, just let's get on with this dinner and cut it out. So then when we got to the destination of the restaurant, we had to pay for parking. And then, mind you, I don't mind if you don't have change for the parking meter. I'm fine with that because I know most people don't have change. So he did ask me, oh, so do you have money for the parking meter? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. So then when we went to put in change for it, I guess the parking meter didn't take it properly. And then later he started like hitting the machine, like not aggressively, but he was just like, poof, poof. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. Like if you want, we can just like go over to another place where there's free parking, or we can go to a place that you're more comfortable with. And he's like, no, like you chose this place, so I want to bring you to this place. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, if you're okay with that. So then later he got the little ticket for it, but it said that we didn't put any money, so we kind of risked that. When we got to the restaurant, he was just like, oh, if I get a ticket, you owe me another like hangout. I'm like, and for me, I don't mind if you joke around like things like that, but I really don't like it when people say things like, oh, you owe me this, you owe me that, especially if it has to do with like a promise or something. I don't know. It's different if it's playful between your friends, but especially with a stranger and someone I'm on a date with, I'm just like, unless it works, but this in this situation it didn't. So I was like, haha, like no, I don't owe you anything. So we sat down. As we're ordering, I'm all like, oh, let's try this. This sounds good. Oh, this sounds good. But he was very much like, oh no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Is there like this? Like he wasn't really adventurous on his food. So that I don't really like in a person, if you're not adventurous and you judge just by the name of it, you know what I mean? So he ordered like something very basic where I tried like other stuff. And while we were eating, he kept staring at me in a way where it's like, just kind of like looking up and down and all that stuff. And then I tried to change the subject because he was just like, oh, so your roommate. And that's the weird thing. I felt like this guy, he was very much like wanting to get to know my circle as well. So he was just like, oh, your roommate, like, how is she like? And I'm like, oh, she's actually really gorgeous, which she is. Oh, and if my roommate watches this, I'm sorry. So I was like, yeah, she's really gorgeous. Like, she's like one of those Instagram girls, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I'm not interested in her, though. I'm like, oh. And he's like, yeah, the girl I'm interested in right now is the one in front of me. I'm like, ah. It was so awkward. So I just like kept eating. And then later, come the bill. Yeah, come the bill. I was like, hey, how about we do Dutch style? We'll split it, 50-50. He's like, no, I got it. Like, and it was like $70. He's like, no, I got it. I'm like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Again, if you watch my first or my last couple dating segment stuff, I don't like it when guys pay unless it's going well and I have the intentions of wanting to see them again. I would rather them not pay. If anything, I'd rather pay half or like me do the whole thing. So I was just like, oh, no, it's fine. He's like, well, too bad. I already put 70 on the table. I'm like, well, take 35 back because I'm going to put 35. So I'm like, and then it took a long time to convince him. I'm like, look, you already drove me here and you told me that you're going to drive me home. So like, think of it as like gas money. So just take your money back. And then he's like, okay, fine. So, I put 35, and then later we go back to the car, and he was just like, so what now? What do you want to do now? I'm like, home time? And then he's like, oh, okay, fine. So as we're like going back, I didn't really want to tell him my address, to be honest, but then there was no way around it. And I should have given him an address that's closer to here, but it just so happened like I couldn't think of the spot, so I did give him my actual address. So while we were trying to get to here, we did get lost a couple times. And then he's like, oh, I was hoping like we would like smoke up somewhere. I'm like, no, remember I told you I'm not really wanting to do that. And he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. All right. And then while the drive, he's just like, oh, I'm really glad that we're getting lost because it's more time spent with you and stuff. And it was sweet. Like, he is a nice guy, but it's just, I didn't feel that spark. I just didn't. And I couldn't, like, fake it. So then later when we finally got here, we talked in the car for a bit, and then he was just like, oh, my back kind of hurts. Like, can you massage it a bit? I'm like, like where? And then he's like, just right here, which was on the side that I was next to anyways, by the passenger seat. So I gave him like a couple squeeze, and then he's like, oh no, I think we should sit in the back seat. I'm like, oh no. And mind you, before we got into his car, I forgot to mention, I asked him, did you need to use the restroom? Because I knew he was dropping me off at home, and a lot of people tend to use this tactic where if you don't want the person to come up to your apartment to use the restroom, always offer them to use the restroom at the place that you're eating at, so it avoids that whole awkwardness for them to come into your home. So I did ask him that. So then fast forward to the car. I'm like, oh, no. He's like, oh, but you owe me one. I'm like, I don't owe you anything. Like, when did I say I'm gonna give you a massage and stuff like that? I never said that. So then later he started, what did he do? He was just like, oh, I need to go use the washroom. I'm like, oh, but I asked you before in the restaurant and you said you didn't. It's like, oh, but it moved its way down. I'm like, well, there's a public restroom down the street if you'd like, but yeah, my roommate's home and I would rather you not come over and stuff like that. So it's just awkward. And then later before I left, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go upstairs now, but thank you so much for driving me. I really appreciate it. And then he's like, oh, can you hold my hand for a bit? And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I'm sorry, no. And he's like, oh, come on, just hold my hand for a bit. I'm like, no. And then he like goes, here, let's try. And I'm like, oh my God. So he held my hand, and literally it was like this. This is my hand and this is his. And he was like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't lead you on. Like, I don't feel it. And usually I'm not this outspoken with people, but in times like this, you can't sugarcoat it at all, but you can't be rude as well. So I'm like, I'm sorry, but during our dinner, you talked about this girl that you really liked. Can I ask you, like, did she hold your hand? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, did you guys kiss? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I can't do that to you. I can't lead you on because I've been in that spectrum before where, like, I thought their feelings were genuine and stuff like that, but they weren't. And I would rather not hurt somebody with lies, and I'd rather be honest. So I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't do it. And he's like, oh, but I thought we were going to watch a movie together. I'm like, no, like, I said the idea of it would be nice, but I would rather get to know you more and see if we vibe well, which is why we hung out today. And I'm sorry, like, I just feel like you are a nice, genuine person, but we're just a little bit different in a sense where I don't think a relationship, a romantic one at that, would work. And then he looked really upset, and I don't take pride in, like, rejecting people, because I've been rejected, I've done the rejection, and it's not fun, but you do get to know, like, what kind of person you're looking for, what works best for you. And it's crazy because there was even a situation where I thought I connected really well with this person, not him, but another one, to the point where I thought like we were going to date and stuff. But when I met them, it was totally 360. That'll be in another story time. But, it's not fun, but you feel so much better after telling them the truth. regardless. Even if you're in a relationship and let's say you feel like the feelings have gone down and you can't rekindle it back, listen to your gut and understand what you really want as a person, even if it hurts. It sucks, but this is what we go through. We're humans after all. So I felt really bad because after I told him that, he did look really upset. I'm like, well, I'm gonna head out now. And then he's like, okay. I'm like, you're gonna find somebody good. And maybe one day I'll be like, wow, I rejected a really good person, but he's just not my type. It just wasn't good. So after I left, I was like, oh boy, like that did not feel good. I had to actually call one of my guy friends and I was tearing up because I just felt really bad. I was like, oh my God, like, am I being shallow? Am I being like rude? And this is the second time like I felt really bad rejecting somebody. Um, but yeah, I didn't know what to do. And then my guy friend consoled me and told me everything's okay. This is what dating is. And then after like I talked to my guy friend on the phone, the Snoop Dogg messages me and he was just like, oh, like, I wish, what did he say? He's like, oh, I wish I was there laying next to you, not just to fuck or anything, just to lay around with you, but it's over. And in my head, I'm like, it's over. Like, it never even started. Like, what do you mean? So after that, he did text me the next day saying, what are you up to today? Oh, are we going to watch a movie? And I'm just like, no, I'm busy hanging out with friends. Like, I left it really short. And then after that, he just stopped messaging. So I do hope he is well. I hope that he finds somebody who likes him for him. But I just couldn't do it. I can't lead anybody on. And I hope that you guys, if you guys learned anything from this dating video, it's to really, really trust your instincts, regardless of how long you've talked to somebody. If you meet them and you're like, no, it's actually not going so well, maybe cut the thread before it gets, even thicker, you know what I mean? But anyways, that is my story of Snoop Dogg, aka Snoop Dogg dating. But yeah, I have lots more stories to tell you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It was a bit longer because I did add in some like lessons into there. But yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed already, please do, because as you all know, I try to post a beauty video, a vlog video, and some random videos like this one here and there. But also follow me on Instagram. That will be affiliated. No, that will be written below. I'm trying to be sounding smart, but it's not working. But anyways, as always, I like talking to myself. That's not a lie. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. Bye, guys.